good afternoon. Welcome back to Survive and Thrive Virtual Summit for Moms, designed for moms who are working from home or want to build businesses from home or currently building their businesses. And we have a bunch of wonderful speakers, including today's speaker, Miss Michelle JEWSBURY of
Thank you so much.
Voices. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Super excited to share with your audience some tips to overcome some of the challenges that we're all facing right now.
Awesome. We're so glad to have you. I'm going to tell them a little bit about you. Okay, so Michelle JEWSBURY is an international philanthropist, speaker, author, and coach who has traveled the world as an advocate for the less fortunate. In August of 2016, Michelle focused her efforts on ending domestic violence. Her desire to help victims of domestic abuse came from personal experience in such a relationship. In July 2017, Michelle founded Unsilenced Voices, a 501c3 nonprofit focused on inspiring change in communities around the globe by encouraging victims to break free and survivors to speak up. She has since completed and published her personal memoir, But I Love Him. Recognized as a valuable resource in the speaking industry, Michelle JEWSBURY is the go-to professional speaker who uses her story of survival as encouragement and motivation for others. All right, welcome. We're so glad to have you here.
Yay, I'm super excited to be here. Thanks.
Thank you for making time. I know you're super busy and doing a lot of speaking for different organizations, podcasts, summits, all kinds of things right now.
Yeah, you know, with the way the world is progressing and moving, right, we have to innovate. And, you know, I'm used to going to events and functions and being in front of people all the time, but we have just shifted. You know, that's what a lot of coaches and mentors and most people have done, is we've just shifted online. So yeah, keeping busy. It's good to keep busy.
Yes, and yeah, and it's, I don't know, I think it's surprisingly easier than we thought. You know, sometimes transferring from in-person to online, it's like, oh, how are we going to do this? But you know, it works. And some people are just sitting home twiddling their thumbs, and some people like you are busier than ever. So that's great.
Yeah, I know a lot of my colleagues are really busy right now doing virtual summits. So it's awesome. So thank you so much for having me on your summit. And I look forward to encouraging your audience.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking time. And yeah, hopefully, I know we'll get some good conversation from this, but let's go ahead and dive in and hear a little bit about your story. What is your from trial to triumph story? Kind of give us a little bit about your background.
Got it. I'll kind of start from the beginning. So I was born in 1983 in North Idaho to two amazing parents. My mom and my dad were awesome. Today is actually my father's birthday, so it's kind of nice. And my mom and my dad are up in heaven, but they did a great job. They raised me and my younger brother. We moved around a lot. My daddy was military growing up. So we learned to trust our family and to make friends and lose friends very quickly, because when we moved so much, we didn't stay in a place, right? And we didn't have Zoom back then and virtual summits to stay in contact. So I made friends quickly and then made friends quickly in a different place. But I was always very, very close to my family. And then when you fast forward, when I'm about 16 years old, my mom worked in the restaurant industry. So she actually trained me to be a hostess and then a server and bartender and a manager. So I ended up spending over 12 to 15 years in the restaurant industry, where I worked back of the house, in front of the house. It was really interesting. And I loved the work because I got to communicate with a lot of people and hear their stories. But I knew that I wanted something more. At that point in my life, I was studying theater in college, and I wanted something more. So I decided to pack my bags and drive from Idaho to Hollywood, California to pursue an acting career. And things were going well. You know, I was producing plays. I was involved in TV commercials. I was doing independent films. It was great. And then I end up meeting somebody in 2011 who swept me off my feet. Blonde hairs, blue-eyed, really handsome, really outgoing. And we started a relationship. And about 4 months into that relationship, my head ended up going through the drywall. And I didn't understand that this was the beginning of a domestic violence relationship. I had no idea what I was experiencing. I had no idea what was to come. So I remember that day very, very vividly, where we ended up getting into an argument, and he just pushed me so hard against the wall that my head actually bounced and caused a very large indentation. And he walked out of the room.
Oh.
And at that point, I literally stepped forward and looked at the hole in the wall. And all I thought to myself was, I need to patch it. It didn't even dawn on me, right? It didn't dawn on me that this abuse was going to continue. So that's what I did. I patched the hole, and I stayed with Paul for roughly 4 years. And in those 4 years, I endured physical violence. I was beat twice over 4 hours, sexual violence, emotional abuse, manipulation, and financial abuse. And then I had a breaking point. And then I understood what I was experiencing. And my breaking point was when he was having an affair on me, and I found out, and I freaked out, and I ended up relocating to Southern California and sitting in front of my computer. And when I was sitting in front of my computer, I just remember, I just have to get out some of these feelings. I need to write about my experience. And when I wrote about my experience, when I actually got those feelings onto paper, then it dawned on me how bad it was. And at that point, I was like, wow, that's crazy. So I ended up writing and writing and writing some more. And my writing actually started to come out into a play. So I ended up writing and performing a 65-minute solo play where I performed roughly 15 different characters. I beat myself up on stage. I played my therapist, my friends, you name it, Paul and myself. And I performed that in 2016 at the Hollywood Fringe Festival, and then again at later on that year. And people just started coming up to me, talking to me, telling me how encouraging it was to hear somebody else's story, so they knew that they weren't alone. And then I was like, okay, I really need to do more. So from there, I ended up starting Unsilenced Voices right here, a 501c3 nonprofit. We work in Ghana and Sierra Leone, Africa. I actually just got back from those two places 3 weeks ago. And we help survivors of domestic violence. We work with young women who are used to sex work, and then now they do vocational training to learn other skills. And we are successful. We are making a difference. The government of Sierra Leone has actually recognized us as an attribute to their country. And then now we are also expanding to the United States. We're doing our first event in LA, either the end of July, beginning of August. And then I actually published my memoir, my first book, same title as my play, But I Love Him, in 2019. And that is my personal experience in a domestic violence relationship, and then how I escaped. And then 2019 was kind of a whirlwind, because at that point I was approached by a bunch of different people, but the main thing that happened was I became a speaker. I literally traveled all around the world. I spoke in Egypt. I've spoke in multiple cities all around the United States about my story, but about how we can overcome challenges and overcome obstacles, no matter what they are. It doesn't have to be trauma. It doesn't have to be domestic violence. It could be anxiety, stress, fear. And like a lot of your audience, a lot of mothers right now, they're trapped at home with their children. And sometimes that is anxiety, brings up a lot of anxiety and tension because there's no outlet. Because with this pandemic, there's nowhere to go. So right now I'm seeing an influx in people reaching out for help. So we've created a whole program to help people overcome challenges, and it's a 5-step process, and we can get into that, of course, if you'd like, but it will help a lot of people get their head right and then be able to spend that quality time with our family without that feeling of fear or anxiety.
Wow, that's beautiful. What a
Thanks.
powerful story you have.
Well, thank you, Chelsea. Thank you.
And
And go ahead.
it's so brave of you to come forward and share that.
Well, I think it's important to speak up. So one of the last steps that we teach in the 5-step process is action, right? Taking action. And one of those action steps that we talk about is speaking up, whether it is stream of consciousness writing, whether it's writing a play, whether it's movement therapy, regular therapy, whatever it is. But you need to be able to speak up about what you've experienced in order for you to overcome those difficulties and challenges and overcome the adverse experiences that can happen to you if you don't speak up.
Absolutely. And I love what you said about once you got it out on paper is when you realized how bad it truly was. It's like when you're in the moment, you know, you're just going and you're just doing. But it's really when you look back and you know, similar to me, when I look back at those times and I'm like, wow, I mean, that was super heavy. And I realized the weight of it. And it's kind of like you only understand that when you look back. And then what power you find when you do tell your story, when you do get that out on paper, you know, get it out of your head. And there's just an amazing feeling of release with that. Do you agree?
Yeah, yes, I definitely agree. And it's more like a weightlessness feeling. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, you ended up saying that when you went through similar situations and when you're going through something, you don't understand it at the time until you look back. And it's because we're survivors, right? We survive and we do whatever we need to in order to continue surviving and thriving. So when you do look back on your past, or when you do look back on certain experiences or traumas or situations in your life, and then you get it out on paper, you're able to speak up about it, then it is this feeling of you know, the weightlessness, the release of tension, the release of anxiety. And when you get it out, then you are able to finally heal, because your body will actually hold on to a lot of the traumas that we experience if we don't actually get it out.
Absolutely. And
Yes.
a friend of mine once told me, Beverly, she's going to be a speaker on the summit too, that 95% of the pain that we have does not belong to us. You know, it's like we pick it up along the way and it belongs to other people and we take it in as our own.
Yeah,
But
very, very true. Same thing with forgiveness, right? If
yeah,
we don't forgive, and that also includes forgiving those people who have hurt us, right? Then it's not doing anything to those people. It's hurting us. We're holding on to those feelings, those emotions. We have that grudge. So because we're holding on to that, then our body, then we can't heal. Like we are mentally, we can't heal. Physically, we can't heal. So it is, you know, letting go of that tension. And you're right, you know, everything that we pick up along the way in our life, you know, for me, I tend to worry a lot about other people. I'm very empathetic. I deal with a lot of people in third world countries. I cry. I'm brought to my knees often because people all over the world, even in the United States, of course, experience horrific experiences, experience horrific events that cause them to have a lot of pain. And oftentimes I have put that on myself, and I take up those challenges, and it's almost like I can't be everything to everybody, but I can do my part by also taking care of myself. So being able to put pen to paper and get out some of these feelings, go talk to a therapist. I don't know if you've ever heard the expression therapists need therapists. And that's kind of where I am, because I deal with a lot of people who have extreme trauma. And like you said, we pick up everybody's trauma. We pick up everybody's hurt and feelings. And if you're empathetic, then it really stays and it's a weight on you. But for me, I have to serve. This is a God-given mission. I am serving for the rest of my life. So in order to keep myself healthy, then a therapist like me needs a therapist. So that's what I do. I speak up, I talk. I talk a lot about myself, and the challenges that I've had, and then being able to overcome, because that's what we need to do as a society, is continue overcoming.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So what advice would you give moms who are home right now with their children and they feel like they need that outlet?
Yeah, definitely. So before I dive into the steps in our actual program to help people overcome obstacles, the one thing that I want to remind moms of is just breathe, right? Take that minute for yourself. If you have to, shut the door and lock yourself in the pantry for 5 minutes, whatever that
Yeah.
looks like, just give yourself that time to refocus, readjust. A technique that I tend to use is, yeah, like you're breathing now, is when you reach down and like try to touch your toes, but you let your head dangle, right? And you let your neck release. And when you do that, the blood will rush to your head, but it's a reset for your body. So when you do that, it's a reset for your mind, and you can come out of it going, okay, I got it. But there are steps that you take prior to those action steps, right? And the first step to this entire process is recognize. We have to recognize, realize, and accept that which we're facing and going through. So for example, if you're at home and say you've got 3 or 4 kids, your husband's at home, kids are running all around the house, you are have a ton of anxiety, you're experiencing strange thoughts and feelings because of some things that might have happened to you in your past. What I want you to do is just take a moment and to think about why all of the events right now are causing you so much anxiety, and then write it out. You don't have to show it to anybody, but just write it out on paper. Because I remember when I first knew that I was experiencing something bad, it was when I was able to get it out. So when I realized how bad the trauma was, then I was able to heal. So when you realize that you have gone through something, it's the first step in any 12-step process. Realize, accepting that you have a problem, or that there is some type of problem or trauma. And then you move through these next 4 steps. The next step is thoughts. You learn to elevate your thoughts. So Henry Ford once said, what you think you can or you can't, you're right. Meaning
Right.
that if you think that you can accomplish something, or if you think that you can get through this, or if you tell yourself, okay, I think that I can do this, I think my family's going to be fine, then you will be fine. But if you constantly think, I'm so stressed out, I can't deal with my kids running around, I can't do this, this is not going to happen for me, the world is going to end, right? Which we see a lot of people talking and thinking about that right now. Then that's where your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, everything's going to go to that. And then it's going to be held up in your body, and it's going to cause you even more frustration and even more anxiety. So you have to learn to elevate those thoughts. And in order to do that, you have to go from your head to your heart. So then we got to talk about your feelings and emotions, right? Because if you're thinking negative, then we need to really discover why. So if you're feeling anxious, you need to get it out. If you suppress your emotions, there's something called adverse childhood experiences, where if you experience something as a young adult or a child that is traumatic in your life, and you hold on to it, then it comes out in physical and or emotional ailments when you get older, meaning chronic anxiety, stress, autoimmune disorders, chronic headaches, pain, you name it, right? So it's
Disease, right?
disease, exactly, disease. So when you're able to express your feelings and your emotions, then you're able to heal from past events, which will then allow you to deal with reality, deal with events that are happening right now. Meaning that if you were abused as a child and you learn to deal with that situation, learn to express your feelings, learn to elevate your thought process, learn to forgive, then you can overcome a lot of the challenges that we're facing now with the anxiety, with the coronavirus pandemic, with kids running around the house, with husbands at home, with being out of work. Then we can learn to innovate, and then your creative side can really come in and replace a lot of these negative feelings and emotions.
Can I interrupt you for a
yes,
second?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you a question. So, looking back at your past pains and, some of those difficult experiences that you've had before, how do you know how it's affecting you now? And I feel like you kind of answered that when you talked about expressing yourself.
Mm-hmm. Because expressing yourself is the number one key to healing.
Like, yeah, to knowing, okay, where is my hurt now from this past experience? It's kind of just opening up your mouth and see what comes out, and that's really the pain you have to deal with.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I remember sitting in my therapist's chair, and if I were to go in and I was feeling worried or stressed out or something, right? If something wasn't right, he would literally have me sit in my chair, right? With my feet on the ground, not crossing my legs, take a deep breath, close my eyes, and feel where the tension is. Whether it's in your head, whether it's in your chest. I typically would feel it right here in my chest. And then it would be like, okay, hold your fist, and this is your tension. And just breathe into it and start to let it go. When you breathe into that tension, you start to let it go. Then you're more able to express your feelings about it. Typically, you will cry, and that is normal. But when you start to speak up, then you know that you're not alone. And other people realize that they're experiencing difficulty. So it's a domino effect of sustainable, healthy change in our societies. And that will lead you to the next step, which is words, right? Using words of affirmation, putting in positive material like this podcast, like summits, like live events, audiobooks. One of my favorite books is Failing Forward by John Maxwell. That book, I read it and I read it and I read it over and over again, because every time you fail, you are one step closer to your dream or your vision. Failing is not failure. Failing is, they're stepping stones, right? Every failure you have, they're a stepping stone to where you're supposed to be. And putting positive material in your mind, in your life, will then allow you to create positive action steps by taking care of yourself, going to see therapy, taking walks when you can, especially right now, giving yourself that 5 minutes in that pantry to where you can breathe and do the exercise where you put your head down, try to touch your toes and just release that tension. Where you need to be able to sleep and eat well and take care of your body. And then from there, the world is really your oyster, even right now, because innovation is what is going to continue progressing the world forward. And you can only be innovative and creative once you're able to heal a lot of your pain and fear and anxiety and traumas.
Absolutely. Okay, so tell me again the 5 steps.
Okay, awesome. The
Got recognized.
First step is recognize. Second step is thoughts. Third step is feelings. Fourth step is words. And fifth step is actions. So for your listeners, for your viewers, I would love to gift out a 6-page PDF that goes into detail about these 5 significant steps to help you overcome any of the challenges that you're facing in your life. Would that be okay, Chelsea?
That's great. Yeah,
okay,
that's
awesome.
Great. Absolutely.
So all you need to do is text UNITE to 26786. Again, it's text UNITE to 26786. And then you'll get a text message. I'll ask you for your email address, and then I will send you the entire 6-page PDF on how to overcome obstacles by using these 5 steps.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you for that.
Of course. Of course.
Okay, awesome. Well, so what advice would you give to moms who want to be able to start earning that income from home, and they want to know, okay, how do I get started?
Okay, great. So getting started is just taking a step forward, right? You don't have to be perfect, but you just have to do it. So one of my friends, a really good friend of mine, her name is Angel Tussey. She oftentimes teaches that everything to write your book is already in your computer. So we have a lot of time on our hands right now. So this is the quickest way to at least put a couple bucks in your pocket. And it also makes you an expert in whatever it is you write about. So if you take, say, documents that you've saved, emails that you've sent from your computer, you typically have like 40 pages right there of a book. So then go in and write your first book. People are writing their books right now in 30, 60, and 90 days, and then publishing it on Amazon. And then once you do that, then it makes you an expert in your field. So say all of the information on your computer is about formula, right? About children's formulas. And you did all that research because of your personal experience with something that your children have been dealing with, that you couldn't feed them with this specific formula, or they had an allergic reaction, or whatever that is. You have those documents already on your computer. So compile them and write a book. And then it makes you an expert in children's formulas. And then you can advertise yourself as an expert and get you on PR, get you interviewed on places. And then from there, you can really innovate and figure out, okay, do I want to be a speaker? Do I want to start an organization where I can help people? You can innovate and decide what it is that you want to do from there. So right now, I mean, there are so many different opportunities, and really take some time right now to think, where do I want to be in the next 2 to 3 years? If the coronavirus does stick around, how can I innovate? How can I use technology to help move myself and my business forward, and my family forward? And then, once this clears up, eventually we will be in person again. How do I want to impact people, and how do I want to impact my own life? So just thinking about those thought processes, right? And thinking about, how can I make a difference? But really connect with yourself during this time, because God has given us this gift right now of not being busy, 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 and on the Busyville wheel, and being able to sit and read a book if you want to, being able to reconnect with God, being able to reconnect with your soul, and reconnect with your dreams and your visions, because you're never too old to go after your dreams.
Absolutely.
Yes,
That's
definitely.
beautiful. I love that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's working for me. So if it works for me, it can work for other people. I mean, I am far from perfect, and to tell you the truth, at the beginning of the coronavirus, I did have anxiety too. I'm not going to lie. But what did I do? I actually went on a Facebook Live and I expressed myself. I told the world that I was experiencing anxiety. And at that point, I had that release of tension. And then people were like, well, what do you want to do about it? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And then, we created a whole summit process. And now I'm speaking on virtual events. And it started only because I acknowledged what I was feeling. I acknowledged this bubble right here, and I let it dissipate, right? And that's what we need to do as a society, as a whole society, is be in touch, more in touch with our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts, be in touch with our experiences that we've had in our past. And then from there, we can take that next step forward, so we can innovate, so we can figure out what it is that you really want to do, your dreams. What did you want to be when you were a child, right? When you're looking at your kids, when they're running around and playing cowboys and Indians, right? What did you want to do when you were that age? Because you are never too old or too busy or too young or too whatever to pursue that vision. So continue putting one step in front of the other.
That's awesome. And your mess is your message.
100% your mess is your message. And you can create lemonade out of lemons, and your situation, your circumstances do not have to define who you are, because you choose your next move and you choose your reality.
Absolutely. And what truly matters is who you become in the process, and yeah, how that has made you stronger, that experience. That's beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, okay, tell us again. Text Unite.
Yep, perfect. Yeah, text UNITE to 26786. Again, it's UNITE to 26786. And then if you need to reach me or want information about Unsilenced Voices, you can find us on all the social media platforms. So
Okay,
thank you so much,
great.
Chelsea.
Thank you so much for your time, Michelle. You have a good rest of your day. I really appreciate you giving this message to the moms.
Really appreciate you too. So it's awesome. Thank you so much. You're doing a
All
great
right.
thing, Chelsea.
Thank you so much. Okay, bye.